what is wrong with this Chelsea team? What is going on? Because they've now lost 4 straight matches, which is the most since 1993. In that span, they've given up 12 goals. They've lost back-to-back matches 3-0. That's 6 goals, no goals scored. Liam Senior, all we're seeing is that he's taking notes and he's speaking very well to the press conferences, not throwing anybody under the bus, but this team is clearly not playing well. And is the project ever going to actually lead to any results? But look, before we get into any of that, if you watch the game, Chelsea were already just looking poor in the first couple of minutes in this match. It looked like they just were not interested. Everton were the much better team. And then Chelsea do go down a goal. And in the second half, you're thinking that this is Chelsea. Liam Senior, he's going to have a good pep talk. He's going to get this team playing. They can't possibly lose back-to-back matches, especially after being humiliated by PSG at Stamford Bridge. That's what everyone was thinking, right? But nope. Actually, it could get worse, much worse, because they give up 2 goals. Robert Sanchez has completely lost his confidence. Under Enzo Maresca, he had started to look like a Chelsea keeper, and I know that a lot of us were still questioning whether he would actually get there, but there was progress, and he had looked pretty well. But then, ever since Liam Senior's taken over, benched him for Jurgensen, he looks like a completely different keeper. He just nowhere near the level that a Chelsea keeper should be, which makes you question back earlier in the summer when we had a chance to sign Mike Maignan from AC Milan, and Chelsea were like, no, we're fine, we don't need a keeper, even though they were looking to sign Mike Maignan, but held pat with Robert Sanchez, and now that's looking like a bad decision. But look, what else can you really say about this Chelsea team? Because you don't get an answer after a humiliating PSG loss. You don't get the kind of response or reaction that you want from these players. I know that the season is practically over, but the boys are still playing for the Champions League. The goal is still finish in the top 4, and so far that looks like it's in jeopardy, because if you're looking at the Premier League table, Chelsea are sitting in 6th place and just 2 points ahead of Brentford and Everton. Liverpool, look, Liverpool have had an up and down season, and I know things are bad, but we're still competing with Liverpool, and we're still behind them. You still got Villa, which everyone is expecting that the wheels are going to fall off. They're not going to make it. But look, so far it just this project that we've been being sold by Todd Boehly, by BlueCo ownership, trust the process, wait it out, sign these youngsters. It continues to not produce anything, and what we've kind of seen is that every year it's becoming the same pattern, the same narrative, the same story. That don't worry, we're gonna get there. We got Cole Palmer, we got Estevao, we got Fernandez, we got Caicedo, we got all these great players. It's gonna eventually click, but it's not clicking. And now people are saying Liam Senior's got to get sacked. They're blaming him, but where does Chelsea actually go from here? Because they've got a lot of tough matches coming up. We're talking about they got to play Port Vale, which I know that they're in the FA Cup. That's definitely going to be an easier match. But then they got to play at home City and then at home at Man United. Those are going to be tough matches. We know that Man City, even though their season's practically over, they're still going to be pushing hard. They're still trying to compete. You got Man United, who have been the most informed team since Michael Carrick took over, so that's going to be a tough match. Then they got to play Brighton at home. We saw Liverpool lose to Brighton, so that's not going to be a walk in the park. And then they got to play Nottingham Forest, Liverpool, and Tottenham. 2 teams that are in a relegation battle. Look, if I'm looking at the table, it's definitely going to be it's going to be a gauntlet that Chelsea are going to run here, trying to make it to the Champions League, because each of these teams are all in decent form. You got a lot of relegation battles, and it's becoming the same thing every season. It's Chelsea towards the end. It's, come on, let's make a push. Let's try to get to the Champions League. It's no longer this Chelsea's in second and they're trying to win the Premier League, or they're in first place. The standards have gone so low under this team that fans are no one is surprised anymore that Chelsea have been losing matches. Everyone has been harping on Liam Senior. He's inexperienced, he's out of his depth, he doesn't know what he's doing. And look, some of that is true. He's an experienced manager, but the issues go a lot deeper. It's the ownership. They don't want to budge on signing these young, inexperienced players. They bring in inexperienced managers, which the crazy part is that we've seen them. They got rid of Tuchel, who was arguably one of the best coaches Chelsea had in a while. They bring in Graham Potter. That didn't work out. Pochettino didn't work out either. Enzo Maresca was actually like he was growing on a lot of fans, and we saw the Club World Cup, and then everyone was thinking like, look, this is it, right? We finally, maybe this BlueCo thing, it kind of started off a little weird. They get Enzo Maresca. Maybe they're actually like, they struck kind of like gold with him, and maybe they're actually going to win some matches here and finally turn into a Premier League title contending team. But that's not what happened. They didn't back him, and then he's not happy. He was so unhappy with, just think about that for a moment. He was so unhappy with the ownership and the management that he forced them to sack him. That's how bad it was. And they bring in Liam Senior, another experienced manager, and it's gotten worse. This team is nowhere near the levels that it was under Enzo Maresca, and that's why Enzo Fernandez has been so vocal. This is not just like him just kind of like, oops, I didn't mean to say those things. Like everything that Enzo Fernandez has said has been intentional. He purposely said that he's not sure if he's going to be signing, and then a couple of days later had another interview where he's like, I don't know what happened. Everyone was surprised. I thought we had the structure. We're building on something, and then you sack the manager, and you could just clearly tell that players on this team are not happy. They're being vocal about it. And there's just been a lot of wrong decisions going into this team. And then some of these signings are just baffling. When you think about they spend £80 million on Wesley Fofana, a player that's barely played for this team. And if you think about that for a moment, they could have signed a more experienced player for less. And sure, it would have cost a bit more wages, but then you got a player like Wesley Fofana now who has been playing so bad that if they try to sell him, like how much are they actually going to get back? It's this obsession with like trying to be clever in the market, trying to sign players on the cheap and potential instead of being like, what? Let's sign a player that's going to fit the system right now so that we can win the Premier League right now. But it's been the exact opposite. This team is heading in the wrong direction. But will Chelsea actually be able to make the Champions League? Look, ultimately, I still think that Chelsea has a strong enough squad that they're going to carry Liam Senior to make the Champions League. But with this reaction today, I'm starting to question whether or not these players are, if he's lost the team already. But what did you guys think of this result? Do you guys actually think that Chelsea will be able to finally pull through and make the Champions League? Drop your thoughts in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe.